I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's sort of thought when he's looked at it in the summer. Okay, I'm against Bruno. I'm not going to get in the team really, and then United are also looking at adding midfielders. So, that's why it feels different to like the Foden situation where it was okay. Just bide your time.
Yeah.
Do the right things. He obviously is, to my knowledge, training well, training hard. I don't think there's been any kind of row between him or Amorim. I think it's just a case of Amorim making his call and Mainoo sensing that to get regular minutes he might have to leave.
Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is Inside United with Laurie Whitwell of Athletic fame, of course.
Yes,
Laurie.
Of course.
Obviously Jay's here as well. So
nice little afterthought there. Do you know what I mean? You get a big intro. By the way, this bald bloke's here as well.
Because you didn't turn up for the last one, that's why I wasn't
turn up. I wasn't here.
Yeah, that's true.
Wasn't invited.
How are you, Laurie?
I'm great.
You doing well?
I'm very good. I enjoyed, I know the viewers won't see this, but a big deep breath before you started there, Joe. It felt like, here we go again.
There's a lot to get into today.
Yeah.
Manchester United are on a knife edge across many fronts at the moment. Not to sound like a sort of general in wartime, but I feel as though things could very much go against us.
Don't go over the top, Joe.
In a matter of weeks. Thank you very much. Very good.
Like that.
But it has been sort of trench warfare for Amorim and his men. I'm going to stop now.
And his front line.
Yeah. Oh, very good, actually. Oh, he's good, isn't he?
Yeah, that's why he's in the Athletic. Do you know what I mean? He's such a wordsmith.
But there's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the manager. We're going to talk about the January transfer window coming up, ins and outs, because it seems as though, certainly on the outs front, there may well be some action there, and maybe on the ins as well. A little look at the sort of changing look of Manchester United in recent weeks and months, and how we seem to be getting some semblance of an idea of what Ruben Amorim wants them to do. And there's a lot more to get into as well. Players coming back from injury, Mason Mount, Lissandro Martinez, but we'll get into all of that. But first of all, how has it been for you over the last few months? Has it felt as sort of tumultuous and up and down as it has for us, for Man United generally?
Yeah, it has. Because, I was at Molyneux last night and, you come away from that, United have won 4-1. Yeah. They're in 6th. They're 8 points off top, which is crazy. I know that's still a big gap, right? But, you just then think, okay, if they'd have beaten Everton against 10 men for 80 minutes, if they'd beaten West Ham, potential relegation team, then they'd be 3 points off Arsenal. Yeah. Anyway, so then you think that, but then at the same time, I've watched the game, and they did play very well in a lot of moments, but Wolves are atrocious. I think it's probably fair to say they are one of the worst Premier League teams that we've seen. And somehow they were level at half-time. And you're thinking, well, that for me, that would have been worse, actually, if that result had stayed the same than Everton or West Ham. But credit to the team, credit to the players that came out professionally. Did like a half-time huddle, actually, before kick-off started, and Wolves were all lined up, and the refs like, trying to start, lads. But clearly they were gathering their thoughts, and I thought some of the football they played was really nice. They did take advantage of the space that Wolves were opening, but it just sort of is a microcosm, really, that game of United's season as a whole. Sort of, you feel like they're capable of real flourishes of quality, but then at the same, on the other hand, they're capable of, absolving themselves of responsibility and kind of allowing slack goals to be conceded. So but then one defeat in 9, or is it before that game it was only one win in 5? So it's just, you can look at this in a multitude of ways. I think ultimately, clearly, it's going to continue right throughout the rest of the season. I've tried to stay fairly, not get too high, not get too down. But at the same time, it is difficult when it has been so erratic in moments. Did I answer your question at all there, Joe?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
Yeah, we addressed the state of Manchester United at the moment.
No, you did. You answered it really well. How do you think the manager is at the minute? Because we've seen the manager seem a little bit tetchy at times in press conferences, even with some of our friends like Carl Anker, for example. It seemed like there was a little bit of needle there. Is he cheered up now that we've battered Wolves?
Well, actually, we did ask him, could this result be a platform for you going forwards? And he sort of said, well, I think we have to accept that Wolves are a special case, basically. So
it's reasonable.
Yeah, which is true. He just can't help himself from being, honest as far as he sees it. So, you're right. The post-West Ham press conference was probably the tetchiest I've seen him. I wasn't actually in the Brighton one when they'd lost 3-1 and he damaged the TV before coming up and had a big furious sort of inquest, I suppose, in that dressing room. But this one felt, I don't know, different in a way, because I think it was a repetition of faults that he, hoped had been moved past, and after the Everton game as well, I think it was a compounding of his feelings, and he was combative. So he first went back, I think, at Samuel Lucas, who was asking him about Kobbie Mainoo not playing, and then Sam Stone. It was sort of a bit of a back and forth with him over the academy and whether he trusts in the academy players. And then Carl was asking him about sort of the physicality of his team, and then followed it up sort of by asking him about the fact that he'd sort of said I don't know on a couple of occasions, and so Amarin was asking him which questions, and he actually had said it in the previous question, but it was sort of one of those moments where you sort of think, okay, let's just move on from this point of view, and so, but it was one of those where I don't know, embattled maybe, but also at the same time I think a manager's totally entitled to have not a go necessarily back at the journalist. He was perfectly sort of fair with what he was saying in some ways, but he was kind of standing up for himself as far as he sees it. And it's obviously I think journalists are entitled also to interrogate him as well. So but that was an interesting episode. And then the Wolves game, he was I guess they just won, right? So he's much more measured in what he was saying. But it'd be intriguing to see how that then continues as we go forward. Obviously with AFCON on the horizon, and the issues that'll entail.
With the AFCON, we'll get to that a bit more later, but just to quickly answer this, if you know, do you know whether our players will be able to play the Bournemouth game?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a hope that they will be able to, but I don't think it's still up in the air.
Way,
so vague, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people reporting it, like they'd have to report on the 15th, I think, which is the day of the game.
Yeah.
But then how does that work?
Yeah, so I think they're supposed to report that morning, aren't they? Because it's sort of 7. So FIFA have changed the rule, haven't they? 7 days before the start of the tournament. But then there's been this grey area because of when matches sort of take place. I think it's basically down to individual nations. So if they have these kind of discussions with them and they're agreeable to it, the players, I suppose, their status within that team makes a difference. If the players are saying, can we stay for this match, then they'll probably go, okay, but it's not a hard and fast rule. So United are obviously in dialogue with them at the moment. Amarin was asked about it last night and he said, I don't want to commit to anything. We're in discussions, so that's a good sign. So I don't know if we can take it. And I think Mazraoui may be a different case as well on that, because Morocco play earlier than the other two nations. So but it's been an interesting sort of storyline, hasn't it? And then still we will get to a point where, okay, what are you going to do without those three players?
It's a really hard one. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Because we all sort of accept that we're going to be worse because we're losing two of our maybe 5 or 6 best players in Mbeumo and Ahmad. I think they're both in the sort of top echelon of our players, and yet no one would accept a loss of form. No one would go, sorry, well, it's okay that we've drawn and lost our last 2 games because we're obviously missing our best players. You almost still have to win anyway. People will talk about dropping off and this, that and the other, but it's almost like, you can drop off, but you still have to win. So it's going to be really difficult for Amarim that, because I don't think he will get given a huge grace period.
And I don't think should he personally. The club knew what they were doing when they signed Mbeumo, for example. They knew he was going to go away with AFCON, really. And I suppose Ahmad was somebody that was inherited by this regime, and Mazraoui they signed, to be fair. So that is all factored into then the transfer decisions you make in the summer. Now, obviously, they had to keep a fairly tight squad because they've not got any European football, and we're seeing that, aren't we? Where you've got Kobbie Mainoo not playing anywhere near as much as he'd like, and that's going to become an issue. So if they'd have got even more players, then what would that have meant? So I think, well, there we go, right? So you've got Mainoo as an alternative now. Is he going to get more matches? That's going to be really interesting to see. Mason Mount, has done well against Wolves. He seems to be coming into form. So if Sesko comes back, you've got options at least. So I think there will be a little bit of grace given to Amarim, but I agree. I don't think it'll stretch that far. I think they still have to perform and get results.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is worrying, isn't it? It is the fact that we're going to lose. Like, even Mazraoui, I know you mentioned the others. So Mazraoui as well, he plays a lot of football for Manchester United. There's a reason he keeps getting picked. It's because he's a pretty reliable guy, isn't he? Do you know what I mean?
And I'm in the back line, right? So Yoro's had a bit of, a downturn in form. Mazraoui's come in and looked pretty good in that right-sided centre half.
It's a weird one as well, because as United fans, you're not really used to this. We had that
Yeah.
One with Onana, which was
one game,
which was just a disaster.
Newport County, wasn't it? In the end as well.
It was just a shambles, wasn't it? I think he played.
That was a weird situation.
Yeah, where he got there late and then played one game, was terrible, and then got dropped for his cousin or something. It was just a complete shambles. But we've never really been in a situation where we lose, a few players to AFCON. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
You mentioned Mason Mount before. You've written an article about him. Obviously scored against Wolves. Scored 3 goals this season, all of them sort of crucial and in wins as well. He seems to be not necessarily at top form, but I would say in probably the best form he's been at in 2 and a bit years at Manchester United. Whenever he plays, I think we look better. He brings good energy, good work rate, and now he's starting to bring a bit of quality as well. The finishing, some of the turns and switch passes as well against Wolves I thought were really good. Again, they're a little bit of a special case because they're particularly bad, but he's doing it more often this season, isn't he, when he's playing?
I think so, yeah. And it actually surprised me because in my head he's been a pretty frequent sort of starter maybe or appearance maker, but actually in the recent games, the game that he started previous to this was Crystal Palace away, so he didn't start the West Ham game, only came on late in that, didn't start the Everton game, came on at half-time, started at Anfield, so he's actually started against Sunderland, scored obviously the opening goal in that one, so it's not like he's been there all the time, basically because Sesko's come into the team and Cunha's the preference, and he did have an injury, didn't he, in the third game, came off at half-time against Burnley and then missed the Man City game, but that's his only one this season, so you hope that those issues that he had for the 2 years when he joined United are gone, but still after the game Amrin actually touched on that and said we still have to look after him and kind of manage the load in a similar way to Luke Shaw, although Luke Shaw's been playing pretty much 90 minutes frequently, so I really hope that this is a period where he can solidify that position in the team. There's obviously a bit of a debate because you kind of feel like Cunha, his best position is that left side of the 210s really. He's done, I think, a decent job actually up top in Sesko's absence, and whether that's where he'd be okay playing continuously if it required, I don't know, but I just think Mount has got real quality, and this is why I've kind of always really liked him at United, even though he's been out of the team, and I can see, I can understand people getting frustrated with him not being fit, but he obviously wouldn't want that, and I think his professionalism off the pitch has been spoken about, by Amrin, by his teammates. Clearly Amrin really likes him for that, the mentality that he has and the way that he approaches people at Carrington, I think is an important quality that he's got. But yeah, to your point, the most important thing really is what you're doing on the pitch, and he's now, you think, okay, it's three goals that have been important ones, but if you can add to that, at Chelsea he got like 11 goals in the Premier League, I think 21, 22, 10 assists in that season actually as well in the Premier League. So, if you've got those kind of numbers, I think everyone would be saying, had a really good season. Can he get there? He obviously needs appearances, needs minutes, but I think the qualities, the interchange that he showed against Wolves, and he has done in previous games, I think is standing him out, and particularly his relationship with Bruno. I mean, what I quite liked actually was obviously his goal at Crystal Palace looked like it might have been off the training ground because it was a sort of short free kick, but clearly afterwards you heard that basically it was just Bruno going, go on, have it. and Mount had to be like, oh right, okay, I'll go and do this, but it was nice technique on that one. And then actually the one against Wolves, even though it was an open play, was much more kind of by design, I think, because he spoke afterwards saying, when he's got the ball in that kind of position with space, that's my trigger, and the run was brilliant, and obviously the finish on the volley was perfect. So I think he's got that quality, that top level quality that you need if you're going to be pushing into the Champions League places, and he's got a bit of bite as well. Quite like his sort of personality on the pitch.
Just on the Bruno front, I think you mentioned in your article that at the end they were hugging, and I know players on the end, but you can see they get on really well.
I thought so. It looks a bit more than just a normal. Yeah,
like there's obviously a really good working relationship there, which you'd like to see that flourish, wouldn't you? Because some of the sort of play between the two of them, they've obviously got an amazing amount of talent. That could be the difference, couldn't it, this season? And
I suppose that's why maybe this system actually does help in a way, because when he signed, right, it was like, well, where does he play? Yeah. And he sort of started as like one of the 2 6s, and that's not really his game, is it? He needs to be more advanced, and so at least this, I know then Bruno's dropped back in this system, but he does kind of get forward quite a lot, really. So maybe that's the way that they can both play together. It would be intriguing, how could they consistently link up? Because like I say, he's actually only 13th in the squad at the moment for minutes played in the Premier League, which did surprise me when I looked into it last night. Behind Sesko, for example, even though Sesko didn't start the season and has been injured for a month. So, I like I say, the AFCON thing has kind of been on the horizon for a while now. We're basically there now. So let's see who kind of benefits from it and how the team functions.
Why do you think he's not played more minutes? I know obviously he feels like a bit of an ever-present in and amongst the team. But do you think it is still a managing of injury thing, or do you think it's just I don't think you're as good as this starting 11?
He said both really last night, Amran. Okay. He said a bit of fitness and sort of managing it. Now, is he being overly cautious, or is that kind of really keeping him back just to make sure he is absolutely on it? Because he was doing a lot of physical stuff, I think, against Wolves. And he also said, just tactics at times. So maybe it's horses for courses, right? I mean, it's not necessarily that one player's better than the other, but maybe Cunha's line breaking, dribbling is more what they need against certain opponents. I suppose I was a bit surprised. Was it West Ham when it was Xerxes? Which was the game? It was Xerxes, Ahmad and Mbeumo as the kind of front three. Was that Everton, maybe?
Yeah.
And then also against West Ham, I suppose Cunha came back in for that one, right? So obviously Cunha's the guy that he signed in the summer, so maybe he would just automatically get preference there. And he's got that kind of personality that I think Amrin does tap into. He's very, he's got a lot of charisma, hasn't he? But he's also quite punchy on the pitch. So maybe that's something that he feels like is needed in certain games. But yeah, I don't know. Like I say, it'd just be intriguing if he can get more minutes as the season goes on.
Yeah, we were talking about that, weren't we, about the West Ham game?
Yeah,
that surprised me. It surprised me that he got dropped for that because,
so it was that came after the Palace game, didn't it?
Because he did well in the Palace game. Yeah. And I get, listen, we all love Matthias Cunha and I like Brian Mbeumo, and we can see some of the qualities that Joshua Zirkzee has, even though probably doesn't get anywhere near as many goals as he should. But that did surprise me a little bit. Cause I suppose
4 days. Was it 4 days?
Maybe,
after?
Maybe there's an element of managing his minutes or whatever. But no, it's good to see Mount doing so well. It's just a bit ironic in it, really, because you're in a situation where he's not injured at all almost now. He's fit. Cunha's available and Mbeumo's available. Yes, you've lost Sesko, but Xerxes still there. So you're having to sort of rotate. You've only got one game a week. And it's like, you probably didn't expect to be in this situation, especially when you look at over the last few years the amount of injuries we've had. And now it's a case of you having to manage it a bit better. But if Mason Mount carries on playing the way he's playing, it's just going to be undroppable. You can't drop somebody who's playing like that.
Listen, come into the membership club, the fan club.
He's not far behind you, to be fair.
I really like him.
Joe's been on it, you know what I mean? I can understand why as well, because you can see how good he is. It's not. I think with Mount it's a bit of a weird one in it, because with someone like, say, Rasmus Højlund, the question marks were about his quality. With Mount, it's just his fitness.
Yeah.
It's never been like, is he a good player? Is he good enough? He's just injured all the time.
I mean, he's won the Champions League with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Like, I know it was, maybe they weren't the best ever team to win that competition, but they were pretty. They beat City in the final. They beat big teams on the way there. So he obviously got that intelligence as well as the quality. So I'd like to see him feature more.
Yeah, 100%. Let's talk about another midfielder and midfielders generally, because I think we can look ahead a little bit to the transfer window. It opens in basically 3 weeks.
You've got a countdown clock on your wall.
I'm crossing off the days.
Not for Christmas,
for
the transfer window.
No, it goes all to the 1st.
You've got an advent calendar for the transfer window.
Yeah, but it started on the 5th,
right,
and goes to the 1st. It's sort of pushed back. So yeah, there's a couple of more obvious things that we need to talk about. One is Kobbie Mainoo. Maybe slightly longer term Manuel Ugarte as well. But I also want to talk about some potential ins, because there's been these sort of short lists that I think you have spoken about and other journalists have spoken about. I want your thoughts on that. But let's start with Kobbie Mainoo, because you wrote recently how there is still this persisting interest in going out on loan for Kobbie Mainoo. We saw it in the summer. That hasn't gone away. I think he's played 180 something minutes out of a potential 1,300 in the league this season. What's happening there? What do you think will happen in January?
Yeah, they'll have more talk, won't they, about him departing. The sense I get is that nothing really will be decided until after AFCON. Sorry to bring that up again, but okay. I think that United will wait to see how that goes, and whilst he might want to go out earlier to start, getting more minutes regularly, I think ultimately it's the club's call, right? So, yeah, let's see how it develops. But I would anticipate something perhaps being, I think that picture becomes clearer at the end of January, from mid-January onwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at it, he wanted to go out on loan in the summer because he sensed that he wasn't going to get the minutes that he wanted, ahead of a World Cup year, right? But also generally for his career, I think he's obviously at a pivotal stage in his development. You know, I think he does need to be playing regularly. I do sort of remember, you know, obviously Phil Foden was kind of kept on a bit of a leash by Pep Guardiola, wasn't he, at times, when he was coming through at City. But I don't know, I think the situation's different there, where you're kind of winning a lot of matches and you're having to break into a very good team. I think the difference here is obviously United have been erratic, to say the least, and you know, perhaps worse than that at times. So he would probably be thinking, how can I not get in this team? So anyway, I think clearly that's something that he will want to rectify in the January window. Napoli have obviously had interest in him last summer. I sense abroad is where he would like to go if he was to get a move away on loan, as I say. But yeah, it was interesting to see him come on last night. You know, he had that conversation with Amrin, didn't he, before going out, as any player would, I suppose, before being sent on the pitch. But the reaction from the away fans was pretty notable. You know, very loud cheers for him. It felt like an understanding and appreciation of his current situation, and an attempt by them to show that, you know, they support him and they admire what he's done for the club so far, and just a bit of a pep, reaction to him coming on. So but let's see how that one develops, because I think if United are to let him out on loan, they're going to have to replace him, aren't they? I know we're sort of saying that there's not loads of games, right? But by the same token, they can't just allow. You know, we've seen the bench has actually been, you know, difficult to look at how Amrin can change it in an offensive way, certainly in previous games. But I think that him not getting on against West Ham when the game was as it was felt quite a pivotal moment, really. A reminder of perhaps where he ranks in Amrin's reckoning. And so, I just am aware that those kind of conversations will pick up again when the window opens.
How long's he got left on his deal?
Yeah, he's got it's 2027 plus one, you know.
Right.
So it's not like it's an immediate concern.
Yeah.
But obviously this is a big thing, right? He's on a wage that he signed February 2023 when he just broken into the team. It's something like 20 grand a week. It's not much.
Pittance.
Well, exactly. I know. How could he possibly survive? But obviously in the spectrum of where he's been at the club, and you know, again, you don't want to just reward people for the sake of giving them new contracts because you've been broken into the team. But I think clearly that is something that is out of kilter, right, with what you'd be expecting. So, but I don't think that's a particularly pivotal aspect at the moment. I think it's just purely he wants to play football, and Amrin at the moment doesn't feel like he's going to be in the team. He sees him as an alternative to Bruno Fernandes, doesn't he? Right? He said that. That was the key moment really in pre-season, I think, when he said that, and people were like, okay, that's really going to limit Mainoo's minutes because Bruno Fernandes will just play. Yeah. And it's interesting though that he came on for Casemiro against Wolves and then played with Bruno on the pitch. So there is, and then Ugarte played with Casemiro against West Ham. So there's obviously nuance to this, and I think that's probably what Mainoo's picking up on and thinking. And like I say, I'm not saying that he should play every minute. I'm not saying that he doesn't have qualities that he can improve on. But it does feel a strange situation that he can't feature more in a team that is as inconsistent as it has been. Yeah.
He seems to not change his mind, but he says a lot of different things about Mainoo, doesn't he, Amber? Like last season, he said he saw Mainoo as a more attacking option. Played him as a false nine against Crystal Palace. Said that he thought that his role was more, further up the pitch than he had been playing under Erik ten Hag. Now then it's he can play instead of Bruno Fernandes, and he plays him alongside Bruno Fernandes. So it does seem a little bit like, I don't know, maybe he changes his mind quite a lot over Mainoo. Do you think they've got a good relationship, them two? Because
Amrin and Mainoo?
Yeah, or do you think it's gone to the dogs? Because he's obviously getting sexy when he's getting asked about him, and I just wonder if
that is true. I think you can pick up on that. And he said, didn't he, you guys love Mainoo.
Yeah.
And
he laughed as well. People made out like when he laughed about getting asked about him, but I don't know if that was exaggerated or...
I don't know.
That seemed to get a lot of traction.
I suppose you have to be a bit careful, don't you, when you're a manager and you're getting asked, and then it gets, the video goes round, and clearly the players see that, don't they? I guess he was probably just thinking, I'm being asked about this again. I'm laughing at that situation rather than the idea that Kobbie could have played. But yeah, still, I guess it goes viral, doesn't it, a bit? So yeah, but I don't sense that there's a particularly strong bond there, shall we say? So
such a shame, man.
Do you think United are up for letting him go in January?
Well, this is the question, right? Are they? They said no in the summer.
Yeah.
There's a question, right? If he's really not for Amrin, and that's maybe to do with, I think, acceleration I've heard, or covering ground, but it does confuse me a little bit, that, because you've obviously got Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Ugarte, who don't really fit that type, but then you look at the players that United are looking to sign and they do really fit that type. Not Adam Wharton really, but Elliot Anderson and Carlos Baleba do. They obviously want more energy in midfield. If they feel that he's not going to be Amarin's guy and Amarin's their guy and they're going to stick with him, then do they have a question to answer in the summer about do we need to sell him? So that maybe does go to the contract point. So then at that point, you're on 2 years left on your deal. Okay, there's a +1. So you'd probably be triggering that. So maybe there's again, you're a bit insured against that. The value depreciating too much. But if he's not playing, then the value will drop. Really, and we saw this with Garnacho, didn't we? When it was clear that he wasn't going to be featuring for United, even though he played actually quite a bit last season, the value drops. So it's difficult to get the full, appreciation of your asset if you want to kind of get into brutal business terms. But I think that would obviously be a very emotional point for a lot of fans, and it'd be intriguing to see what the club feel about that. We had this a little bit, didn't we, last January, where when the stories first came out about Garnacho and Mainoo and quite a strong reaction to it. If that then happens again, will the club take that into consideration? The fans at Molyneux clearly made their feelings clear. So
generally, everyone I speak to and in the comments, want Mainoo to be playing more.
Yeah. Just his quality. He's got the technique. You want brilliant. You want players
even
like that.
He didn't set the world alight when he came on at Molyneux, but the way he keeps hold of the ball, he's just nice and tidy and neat, and it's something that at times we're missing. I just wondered, do you think there's a consideration at all with the fact that what sort of a message he sends out to the other academy players? There's a lot of talk about JJ Gabriel, and is there any worry there? Like, we've always had this reputation at United of looking after our academy, of getting them into the first team. Now that's almost non-existent. Is that coming into consideration, or is that just irrelevant? It's just whether the manager wants him or not.
It's not irrelevant, certainly, but I think it is. Yeah, I think that balance between let's let's back the manager or the head coach or our philosophy on what the club should be versus the traditions and history of United, and there's not a right and wrong in this necessarily, but I think that should be something that's factored into their consideration, certainly.
Just on Mainoo, if we just think about this maybe as football fans rather than asking particularly for inside information, although if you've got it, do let me know.
No.
How do we think he does get back in this team? What do we think that sort of... Because at the moment it's pretty clear that of the players we've got, Amarim doesn't fancy him over Casemiro and Bruno. Okay, so we do want to sign more midfielders to presumably replace either or both of Casemiro and Bruno. At what point does Mainoo get back in? Just do we even see this being a thing, or do we think it's going to fundamentally come down to Amarim or Mainoo? Like, I don't see a way really where that changes, unless you bring maybe does Baleba unlock Mainoo? I can't imagine we're going to go from a player who at the minute is third or fourth in the pecking order of midfielders. I'd say probably third. I think he's ahead of Ugarte, but it's certainly close. And we're buying 70 to 80 million pound players to unlock the third choice midfielder. That doesn't feel likely. No. How does this end positively for Mainoo and Man United, do you think?
Well, maybe it does come down to him or the head coach. That is a consideration, right?
I don't see another way around it, really.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's sort of thought when he's looked at it in the summer. Okay, I'm against Bruno. I'm not going to get in the team, really. And then United are also looking at adding midfielders. So, that's why it feels different to like the Foden situation, where it was okay, just bide your time. Yeah. Do the right things. He obviously is, to my knowledge, training well, training hard. I don't think there's been any kind of row between him or Amarin. I think it's just a case of Amarin making his call and Mainoo sensing that to get regular minutes he might have to leave.
It's a shame, isn't it? I mean, I guess obviously he can improve as he gets older and add different things to his game, and maybe, Casemiro won't be here probably at the end of the season, Bruno won't be here probably in a couple of seasons. So maybe there is a world where, the Baleba's there, maybe another signing's there as well, and Amarim plays a few games with Mainoo next to him and that looks good and we'll keep doing it, and it actually, we stumble upon it. But I certainly don't get the feeling that Man United and Amarim are building towards a Mainoo and someone else midfield.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like that.
Doesn't it?
The caveat I would say, I suppose, is that Casemiro was out of the picture last season, wasn't he? Totally, and he has genuinely won his place back with, grit, determination in training, and then doing performances in the match. But as you say, he's out of contract at the end of the season. That's clearly one area that they're going to go, right, well, we can get a player that we think is younger, more mobile, on a lot less wages. So that's a kind of instant trade. Really, it doesn't really affect the Mainoo situation.
We might be in a situation as well next season, hopefully, where we've got European football. There's more games.
That's true.
You've got a 20 or 21-year-old lad who can be here for the next 15 years in theory. Yeah. So you might just looking at going, look, we might have 55, 60 games next season. I know it sounds daft, but like even getting knocked out of the Carabao early doors was.
Well, you look at Brighton in the FA Cup, you're like, you know what I mean? It could be a 40-game season.
It's not ideal, is it? So maybe that'll come into the thinking as well, because you need a squad, don't we? And I think we all agree that if Kobbie Mainoo was playing, we'd all be happy.
And also, maybe in that instance, he would have more chances to prove himself and prove to the manager that he should be playing. So if there is an extra 15 games next season, Mainoo might go, actually, this works, I like this, let's try it in the league, and then you could see it snowballing from there. It's just at the minute it feels so far off, doesn't it?
And just to find out, he started him at Grimsby, didn't he? And obviously that wasn't all Mainoo, was it? No. But like, so he perhaps in his mind he's got, well, I gave you that chance and it didn't, United didn't win, so I'm kind of reaffirmed in my belief that it's something different in the Premier League.
It's mad how you look at like the Lyon game last season, where it was like Mainoo gets the equaliser, he's full of praise for him. And I was just like a forgotten guy now.
Yeah. In terms of transfers in, then, because obviously Ugarte's future seems very much up in the air. He doesn't particularly fancy him either, by the looks of things. Mainoo, as we've discussed, slightly different, but short term at least, may not be here after January. Who are we still looking at? Because we see these lists of potential targets. I know we've spoken before about people from the Athletic talking about Anderson and Baleba as well. Obviously, was mentioned in the summer. I think Andy Mitten sort of went again a little bit on Anderson, didn't he, and said that United would be keen on signing him, which was a step further than he went before. Do you potentially see any of these happening in January? And if not, what are the names that you're hearing United are still interested in?
Yeah, I know we've sort of danced around this, haven't we, previously on this. I don't sense that United will end up doing anything major in January. I don't think that's not their objective anyway. It doesn't feel like that to me. Now, I don't know. Again, if something very attractive comes on the table, that's basically just an acceleration of what they were doing in next summer anyway, then that is a different matter. But I don't sense that they're looking to get a kind of bargain signing in to kind of cover them for the second half of the season. Again, if Mainoo goes out on loan, maybe that changes the picture and they have to get somebody in to replace him. But I think that they think that next summer will offer the best opportunities to get their long-term targets in terms of value, in terms of their own contract situations, in terms of them just understanding what picture they're going into from a United point of view, because it's still in flux, isn't it, in January? Like, you don't know if it's going to be a European team or not. You look at the quality, you look at the kind of quality. So Elliot Anderson is having a brilliant season. You'd surely think that he wants to move to a Champions League club next. Obviously Forest already in Europe, for example. Crystal Palace, Adam Wharton, I think a similar kind of situation where you feel like his next step would be a Champions League club. Carlos Baleba's obviously had a bit more of a difficult season. I don't know how much of that is actually down to United's interest in him in the summer and his head being turned or whatever. But again, based on the first 2 years that he had at Brighton, you could see him doing a Moises Caicedo type move and go into a club of that kind of stature. So yeah, I think they're the three that seem to be the most consistent names that I hear anyway, and it'd be fascinating to see if they do try for two of those, for example. Say you do get quite a lot of movement in the outs, as you hinted at there, Joe.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because it does feel as though, there's rumours of Anderson potentially favouring Man City. I don't know how true those rumours are, but he feels a very Man City-ish player to me. I think he's sort of the closest thing to a sort of Rodri that we've got in England at the moment, in terms of he get 100 passes a game, but he'll also get 3 or 4 tackles as well. There's not many of that profile of player. Not that he's as good as Rodri, or certainly as good as Rodri has been, but I could see him at City. And then you've got Baleba, who stock has, certainly amongst people who never knew that much about him anyway, like myself. Then you look at him in the summer, and then all of a sudden he's been pretty woeful this season, getting subbed off every week, not great performances. His stock has just plummeted. You've got people like, again, Adam Wharton, who, it seems to be the sort of the least mentioned of the three, maybe, in terms of direct links to Man United. It is just a weird scenario. Do you think that United will go for two? Do you think that the aim would be to buy 2 players in January or the summer if that's possible?
Yeah, I could see them trying, certainly. Yeah. I mean, obviously they tried for Baleba in the summer, even though there was a bit of question about where the money would come from, or the PSR, FFP calculations would fall on all that. So I just think with the potential for outgoing, so Casemiro, Ugarte, as you say there, I think did we talk about him? The kind of meeting that they had with Ugarte at the end of last season, or a group meeting where Amorim basically said, the work rate or the kind of the commitment wasn't to his standards, to his likings from Ugarte. So you could see, so there's been that element of it sort of running through then the summer, and clearly he's not been featuring really much, has he? And there's a kind of crazy stat, isn't there, in terms of when he comes off the bench, and then United's fortunes thereafter. So so I think with all those going on, you could then see them, let's try and go for 2. I guess it's just money and persuading the players, or how that all falls, because I agree with you. I can see multiple clubs being in for Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton.
Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves or anything. Does any of this rely on the likes of Rashford and Højlund and people like that going out the door?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Højlund one more so. I think they're kind of expecting that one to happen, right?
Yeah.
So he's had an okay. I mean, it started well. I think didn't score for a bit, and then he scored, didn't he, against Juventus
couple goals,
the weekend, right? So I think the expectation is that one goes through, because if they're in the Champions League, then it's basically an obligation. Rashford's a bit more uncertain, because that's just an option, and Barcelona is a funny club to predict, so maybe they'll have to just wait on that one. But I don't think it's I mean, it's only a sort of fairly, say small, but it's not like the money,
mega money.
It's not going to change, it's going to move the needle for what United can then do in the market. But they'll obviously have to rely on some good sales, because the finances, I know I say it every time, but they are tight to a degree.
Let's move on to Jonny Evans.
Yes.
I found out yesterday he's stepped down as his role as head of loans and pathways at Manchester United. He's only been there for 6 months, basically, at the end of last season. What's gone on there? Why has he left so early?
Yeah, a surprising one, to be honest. I suppose maybe then in hindsight you sort of talk to people and you say, okay, perhaps maybe it was telegraphed a little bit. I think we spoke, didn't we, on the podcast when he got announced as that, about what it would entail. And it is quite a significant job work-wise, right? It's not like you can kind of, just dip in and out of it and kind of show your face here and there. I think it is a lot of travel. It's a lot of, regular contact, time away from home. So, cited in his exit, spending more time with his family is one thing. But yeah, I don't know the exact reasons, but I wouldn't be surprised if something like that has happened, where the reality of the situation has become apparent, and a requirement, to work as much as that is perhaps not totally fitting with what he wants at this time in his life. I do think it's a bit sad, because you've got a guy there with great experience and United heritage, and I'm not saying that people like that should just be given jobs automatically, certainly not, but I do think there's a value to having people like that around that can kind of just speak to the success that United have had, and the kind of values and the way that they were able to do that with real authority and genuine understanding of it. And so him going then removes one of those links, doesn't it? So I would a sad development, I would say, but I guess maybe then we'll see who comes in for him and to replace him, and we'll see where he goes after this.
Feels like go on.
No, go on.
Feels
bro.
like it's one of those where that would be a first step on a pathway to maybe one day being a technical director or a sporting director or CEO, because it's more, it's
quite administrative to a degree.
Yeah.
As much as obviously you need a football knowledge as well to be able to place these players in certain positions and have the connections as well, networking a little bit.
Because that would be good if you were to become a technical director or something like that, where you're trying to sort of shape the club and how we recruit players and stuff. Having a real good base knowledge of loans and the market and all that sort of, contact book, that would have been great. So it's a shame that wasn't able to build and kind of develop, because, I don't know, you would think 5-10 years he might be CEO of Man United, but obviously that potentially is probably not going to happen. A couple of other things I want to talk about. One is Benjamin Sesko. Is he going to be back for the Bournemouth game? Do we know?
I don't know. I think there's a hope.
Okay.
His agent was on TV last night sort of saying there is a maybe sooner than people expected. His agent Elvis, I think, colourful character. So, I think that's what I think they've been building towards. But let's see. I think after Matthijs de Ligt, didn't feature against Wolves, there's a little bit of a caution to sort of say for certain when players are going to be back, and we'll see on that one. But I think he's fairly close anyway.
That's good. I mean, there's a few good fun quotes from old Elvis.
Oh yeah.
Well, just he said, talking about the injury, he spoke about he might be back sooner than people think. Like you said, I think we'll see him very soon. That's true. Yeah, I'll be back very, very soon. He also talked about Amram. And said, I think Ruben, first of all, is an excellent person with fantastic charisma, extremely intelligent, emotionally intelligent. I think he knows what he's doing, which is obviously good. Sort of the opposite of what we've had from some high-profile Man United signings agents down the years, where it's not always been quite so complimentary to people. I believe he's in a difficult situation. It's not easy to build such a project that requires enormous knowledge and intelligence. United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest, and people don't understand that you need time. Very complimentary, which is what you want in it, really. You want someone like Sesko and his team to be adding to Man United rather than fighting against or taking away from Manchester United.
Yeah, you want harmonious situations, don't you? There's other clubs that aren't so harmonious at the moment.
Well, can we talk about that?
Can we?
Can we talk about Liverpool? We've got to, surely. Like, from your perspective,
Stretford Paddock becomes the cop.
Paddock. Yeah, exactly.
Well, to be fair, we've only spoken it for about 5 days.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
You can't not. Like, even in our sort of pits of misery, we think about it, we've never had, or not that we can think of, had our biggest, most famous and best player. Here's the thing. Okay. Yes, Ronaldo de Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
But fighting with a legend, like, actively. It's like Salah versus Carragher right now.
Oh, okay.
And you've got Salah versus the management.
Slot, yeah.
It's a trifecta, and we've only ever had the two. So actually, they're more of a shambles than we've ever been, Laurie.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Joe.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
We would never sweep to such lows.
Rubberneck like this.
Did you shout to any of the reporters that cover Liverpool from the Athletic?
No, actually. No, actually.
It's like the England dressing room in 2008.
Yeah. Do you know?
You lot hate each other.
I always wonder, are they loving this or hating it? Because it's like, loads of copy in it. It's like, it's so, like, obviously, massive story, but then again, it's, they're imploding. So it's like,
you'd rather be writing sort of inside reads on why it's all gone right rather than which I mean they were doing like 5 months ago. Really,
they've had enough of that over the last couple of years.
James Pearce, who covers Liverpool for us, is really good. Actually, he's brilliant, and his inside piece on the whole Salah situation was fascinating. I was reading that yesterday before going down to Wolves. I think I'm always fascinated by this. How does this happen that you've got a title-winning team, then this player that's lauded as rightfully one of the best players ever to play in the Premier League, third highest goal scorer for Liverpool in their history, and they've got some history, then going at it in a mix zone at Ellen Road against the manager that's won the title, and as you say there, legend in Jamie Carragher. It's a fascinating situation. So yeah, credit to James Pearce for putting that together. Greg Evans is a good friend of mine actually, and he covers Liverpool as well, so I should give him a nod.
Amazing though. Yeah, it is absolutely crazy.
It's hilarious is what it is, man. Long may it continue.
Yeah. Another thing I want to get your thoughts on. We saw some pictures yesterday.
Oh, aye.
Of the Ineos lot.
Oh right.
Nothing.
Not those pictures.
I thought you had my phone then for a second.
No. You can see them now.
Although there was some pretty, let's say, outrageous pointing going on. Yeah. So you got Jim Ratcliffe, Wilcox, and Barada.
Yeah.
People wanting to frame it as though they're having an argument, they're shouting at each other. The sort of Barada's face in the top one looks slightly like, Jason,
what have you said?
Don't do it. And then the second one, he looks like he's just been punched by Ratcliffe and he's on his way down. Do you think that's just... have you heard anything about this?
I mean,
this has to be nothing. Because I would look at this
straight away. The answer's no.
I've not heard anything.
But it went around Twitter yesterday at half-time. It's 1-1. And was like, and they're all falling out in the stands as well.
See, I didn't even see this whilst I was at Molineux. This shows what a good reporter I am. Didn't have any nose for this. He's just He's just saying, I told you to give Mason Mount a new contract.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
You've done it.
No, I don't know. Listen, all we know, right, is that Jim Ratcliffe has opinions, isn't afraid to voice them. Him and Wilcox do talk about football a lot, so I imagine that it's something like that, and I will now go away and I will try and figure out exactly what.
Send those pictures.
It doesn't, to be fair, like the people around him don't like bothered.
No.
Doesn't like, if something's going on like, you don't be staring, wouldn't you? Like, oh, look at that. I don't think anyone's asked.
I think this kind of thing has probably happened before. I mean, we've reported, haven't we, on the trips that they've had together when they have, kind of got together. And I think Ratcliffe quite likes having a bit of blunt conversation. We say, he mentioned how Amorim tells him to go away in not so many polite terms if he's overstepping his mark at Carrington. So, but it's interesting, right? I mean, let's see if there's more.
Keep an eye on it.
Director's box tete-a-tete, shall we say? It could become quite fun to watch.
I don't know if you can see there as well, but I do believe the man with the hat drinking the cup that's Eric Ten Hag undercover. He's got back in. He's infiltrated the inner circle once more, Eric Ten Hag. So he's probably soaking all this up, and he's probably going to use it in some sort of expose. So you need to get there before he does. Someone else I want to talk about. There's so much to talk about. Cal Macaulay.
Oh yeah,
he's the new head of senior scouting.
Thank you. I've forgotten what exactly his title was.
Oh, sorry. I thought
not that I have any agency
that
in that. No, I was nothing to do with it. But yeah.
What does that entail? Who is he? What will he bring to Man United?
So it's been a job that they've been looking at since the summer, and so I think it was a pretty competitive process. Lots of people applied for it. United engaged a company, I think, to help them with it, and then they've come to Cal Macaulay, who I had known from when he moved from Brighton to Chelsea, because I remember he went with Graham Potter basically. So he's followed Graham Potter's career closely. He first got into this kind of realm as an analyst at Östersunds when they went from the Swedish fourth to the top flight.
Was that with Potter as well?
Yeah, with Potter.
He was there, wasn't he?
And so into the last 16 of the Europa League actually when they faced Arsenal. Yeah. So Mark Critchley, my colleague who you know well on this channel, has done a brilliant piece. I helped him a little bit with, but he got an interview with Macaulay's uncle who used to play for United in the 70s, I think it was. So, and he was a manager, and Macaulay was a bit of a player with him as well. And then he kind of left him to go and do this job at Östersund. So it's kind of interesting sort of start to his career there. And he's basically been closely aligned with Potter since that point. So over at Swansea, then Brighton, Chelsea, West Ham, different roles at different moments. He stayed on at Chelsea after Potter left. They wanted to keep him. West Ham, I'm told, wanted to keep him after Potter left in the summer as well. More recently than that, wasn't it? So, yes, and from people that I would trust as pretty fair, not with any particular biases on this one, they would say that he's a good person to have at the club. Bit of a combination of his data eye plus also his network, and his role is, I thought before sort of learning more about it, that it was going to be more of a kind of organisational role of the scouts. So Steve Brown left as, I think, Director of Scouting Operations in the summer. Christopher Favell, Director of Recruitment, so he came in above. Steve Brown's role changed. He took the opportunity to leave. I thought it was going to be kind of more of a replacement for him, but actually I think he's got more agency and sort of, determination over targets than just sort of organising scouts, making sure the scouts are in the right places or that they're going to watch the right people. So he's going to obviously be working closely with Chris Favell and also the scouts that they've already got at the club, although the number of scouts is actually coming down quite a lot. It was 140 I think at one point, including part-time scouts. It's been down to 80, and I think it maybe even, definitely even lower now. So I think they're kind of trying to streamline the situation, the operation, and Macaulay's going to be, I think, a pretty pivotal figure within that.
When they streamline it, are they streamlining it in certain areas, like different countries and places like that? Is that how it's working?
Yeah.
In terms of streamlining, sort of focusing on maybe more sort of European and British-based players.
I think so, yeah. So, I mean, for example, I was told that they've not now got a scout in the USA, for example, which obviously big country.
Yeah, you cover the USA, that's your job.
Yeah, just anyway.
Yeah.
Texas,
the World Cup's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you seen the World Cup? There's a World Cup on.
Yeah.
We should never have sacked Clint Turgid.
Clint Turgid, brilliant.
I'm trying to think of a very American name.
I wondered where you would go. You're going Clint
it wrong.
and then Turgid, I'm sure. Yeah. I think that the idea is that maybe there isn't necessarily the talent that you'd require it at United. I don't know. Listen, let's see if that's a good call or not. But I think they also feel like they've got enough people that they can then send to go watch these people. You've got video, you've got data. So I think quite a lot of clubs, I don't think United are the only club that have done that with USA, for example, but they've got sort of regional heads across different areas, so South America's, that kind of thing, different countries, areas in Europe. So, for example, Azorco, that's not the right pronunciation of his name, is it? The Colombian 17-year-old who is currently Christian, in Manchester. Orozco. That's sorry for absolutely butchering that, but he. So he's been, I guess, spotted over by one of these guys in South America, in Colombia, and then he's currently in England with the scout who was the regional head for that area. So I think, let's see. I think certainly United's old system covered a lot of ground, had a lot of data, had serious issues with then translating that data into aggressive pursuit of targets. I think Macaulay, from what I'm hearing, Macaulay's quite, he likes to be early on signing, so great. Let's see if he then translates that into United. But I'm always intrigued by these kind of moves because the proof's in the pudding, right? We can't sort of say this is a great move by United because we don't know yet, because we've got to see, okay, who did they bring in? Is the team then going to get better over a period of years? But certainly there are quite significant changes that United feel will do them the world of good.
I think that's all you can ask, really.
Yeah, definitely.
To improve things, and they do seem to be. We spoke a bit about mistakes and good things that Ineos have done since they got here, but I think one thing we can all say is they seem to be trying to do what they think is the best thing in each moment. I don't think the Glazers, you could say the same. I think they knowingly sort of took their foot off the gas a little bit and allowed United to coast. I do feel at least the Glazers, Ineos, are trying. Whether it works or not, like you said, we'll have to find out over the next number of years. Laurie, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming back on. It's nice to have the three of us back here, back in the studio.
It does feel better with it does,
three. Doesn't it? And hopefully we'll get you on again in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Once potentially around the start of that transfer window as well. We'll be deep into AFCON as well by that stage.
So we will know.
We'll know exactly what's going on. Yeah. Whether the players played at Bournemouth, that might be the headline.
No, that's the big story.
The next video.
That is the big story.
I'm sure. But no, thank you as always for coming on. Make sure you check out Laurie's work at The Athletic and the Talk of the Devils podcast. The links to those are in the description as well. Jay, always a pleasure.
Well done, Joel. Enjoyed that. Great having you back.
Very nice to be here. And that espresso has absolutely sorted me out. Thank you very much, Ben, who got that for me.
Thank you very much for joining us. This has been Inside United with Laurie Whitwell. We'll see you in a bit.